I'm here at the home of Jill, who's a Flint resident, her daughter Brittany, and in the middle here is Melissa Mays, who is a Flint resident. She's been all over the country the last few years, kind of an activist, resident, hero. Too many things. And she's met with Congress people, she's met with the EPA, she's met with a whole lot of people. So I am here in this house in particular. So Jill, whose house it is at the end of the couch, she had this growing on her, right around her sink faucet.
My kitchen faucet.
And tell me about, when did you first find that? If you can't see, it essentially looks like an orange amoeba with little tentacles coming out of it. Tell me about, when did you first see that? What were you told it was? All that.
It was 2 years ago in May, and we were told to flush our pipes. So I would turn the water on in the bathroom, I would turn the water on in the kitchen. I would run it for 5 minutes, I would go on about my business. Approximately 3 to 4 days later, at that point I am going to use the sink, so I'm getting ready to scour the sink. And at the bottom of the American Standard faucet, where the water comes out, there was a slime there. And there was like little something sticking out of it. So I'd shut the water off, and I would look, and I would turn it back on, and it looked as though little tentacles popping out. 2 to 3 days later, I can show you a picture on my phone that's not just going to give you a blow-up picture. It had a fin-looking thing that was growing towards the sunlight of my kitchen window. Water Defense did have it tested. It was an amoeba. My daughter came over. I sent her a picture. When she got out of work, she immediately got here. She called the health department, and she immediately called Melissa Mays. Scott Smith from the Water Defense did have it tested. We do have water results here for you. We never heard back from the health department. After it was on Channel 25 News, I was contacted by the EPA, and they would like to make a visit to my home. I said, my home is open, please come in. So that is what grew from the contamination of the pipes coming into this home.
So you started seeing this go, what, around like early 2016?
Yes.
Right, early 2016. So did you call Scott Smith first or MDEQ? Who did you contact about this? I mean, it looks like pretty much an octopus growing out of your...
Yeah.
Who did you contact first?
It looked like foreign, like something you would see growing in the bottom of your aquarium.
Yeah.
That you're all like, ooh, I need to clean that aquarium. I immediately, my daughter, when she came, Brittany, you called the health department.
I called the health department, yeah.
Yes.
And I took it to DHS.
Okay. And Melissa Mays was also contacted. So.
And then I called the plumbers. And yeah, so then as soon as Brittany sent me the photo, what is this? I was like, oh dear God, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I called Scott Smith and the plumbers and said, can you figure out, test, whatever this thing is? And then I asked the plumbers, because they're plumbers, have you ever seen this before? And Harold Harrington had looked at the photo and he said, oh my God, no, I've never seen this before in my life.
So just so the audience knows who we're talking about, so Scott does his own testing through the actor Mark Ruffalo. He has a nonprofit that does water testing and other things. So Scott has come in. He's not funded by the EPA, the state, nobody else. So he's come in and did a lot of testing. All right, so Scott, his testing, which by the way goes to a lab the EPA uses. So, I mean, it goes to a verified lab. They call it an amoeba, had 14,000 calcium, 520 copper, 18 parts per billion of lead, 410 of magnesium, 100 of nickel, 830 of phosphorus, and 4,500 of zinc. Unfortunately, Melissa, you're now an expert on all these things because you've been dealing with this. Tell the audience what exactly that stuff means as far as your health.
None of these things are good. High levels of calcium and magnesium can actually cause heart problems. So also I wanted to let you know that the 18, this is actually not in parts per billion. This is in milligrams. It's 18,000 parts per billion of lead, 520,000 parts per billion of copper, 410,000 parts per billion of magnesium, 14 million parts per billion of calcium, 830,000 parts per billion of phosphorus is what they're using to recoat the pipes, but it also feeds bacteria. Same with nickel and zinc. None of these things should be at any close to this level. The scariest thing that did come out was the actual bacterial testing. It came out to be the bacteria was Delphtia pseudovirans, which is a dangerous human pathogen to people who have compromised immune systems, like people who have been poisoned, like people of Flint, and it can do serious damage to your heart. So we presented this on the news to everybody, with the plumbers, with all the testing present, and crickets.
So thank you for pointing that out.
No problem.
I learn, I get things wrong too. So you got 18,000
parts per billion.
18,000 parts per billion of lead. 15 is the allowed limit for the EPA. I think 18,000, larger than 15. I failed math, but I'm pretty confident of that. But I mean, wow. I mean, also you have zinc. I happen to know is not good for you in high qualities.
No.
And you were talking about the bacteria that was found, but when the EPA heard you had gotten your own testing, they came.
Yes.
And what did they have to say? Because my understanding is they basically told you, don't worry about it.
I had sent a picture of the amoeba.
Excuse me, what did you actually call it?
Bart.
Bart.
Because it looks
Like
like
Bart
Simpson.
Simpson.
Yeah, it hit Bart Simpson's hair.
Okay.
So, yes, Brittany named it Bart, and I said, perfect,
Yeah.
it does, it looks like Bart.
Mm-hmm.
So I had sent a picture of Bart. So when Miguel came to my home, he said, I will be flying in. So thank you that you came. I said, my door is open, please come in. He said, well, we'll test the water. We're going to test it in your kitchen. And he said, we'll see if we can get that tested as well. And I said, okay. So when he arrived, he brought these pictures of, and there was a couple more pictures. I'll just show you one of them here. And he was explaining to me calcium phosphorus. This looks like calcium phosphorus. I don't think this is anything to worry about. Just kept with a conversation of calcium phosphorus. And I said, well, you know what? I don't have a degree in this, but I'm going to have this professionally tested. I want to know what the results are on this, that this is not just a calcium phosphorus buildup. So then he said, well, I'll be back. We'll try and test that. I said, okay. So when they came back, he said, oh, there's not enough there for us to test. Well, there was plenty still on the faucet.
And inside.
And inside the faucet.
I wanna bring up a point. So when you guys were talking, before he tested it, you guys were talking and he was running the water, is that correct?
Yes, before he had turned he had a couple of little real small bottles, and so there was a woman that came and she had like a little something she set over here. This was another time that they came and turned on the water, and we're talking and this and that, and so she took her little sample and the water's running for a little bit and we're talking. I didn't think anything of it. The water's running as you're talking to me, and then you put the little thing under there. And you took your sample.
And Melissa, why is it an issue that they're running the water before putting the sample in to be tested?
When you are testing water for lead or all metals, one of the things that we had busted the state and city on doing early in 2015 was a loophole, a lead and copper rule loophole called pre-flushing, where they run the water first before they sample. Because as you run the water through the pipes, what happens is that it flushes out basically all the bad things. So what can happen is that you get a false low reading for lead and other contaminants. So, yeah, that's very bad. So we had that banned. The EPA even recommended that be stopped in summer of 2015. And then we had filed a lawsuit with all these things and the issues in November and the December of 2015. That actually was made, they removed the pre-flushing instructions from all water testing, and they were no longer supposed to instruct anybody to pre-flush. You're not supposed to run the water before you test for lead, metals, all these other contaminants, because that's not an accurate thing, because you don't run your water for 5, 10, 15 minutes before you fill up a pot of coffee or before you take a drink first thing in the morning. And that's what the testing is supposed to show, how you actually use the water. So I was a little frustrated when I was listening to you say that, as they were coming to test for the bad things growing off of your sink, and he's just letting the water run as, you know, you're talking, and pretty much assuring that it's going to be a low result. That's wonderful.
And remind me, you had issues. Didn't you have something around your eye? And other, I don't know if you had any other serious issues, but you had some health problems around that time.
She looked like an avatar.
I do even.
It was swelling.
I have taken pictures on my phone, and I still have them. I would take a shower, and at times that it would, from here, like your tear duct, and it would swell. I had taken a shower, and we were having a family barbecue.
July 4th.
July the 4th.
July
and
4th.
I had to go, Brittany took me to the clinic. My eyes were so severely swollen, both of them. It looked like bruising under my eyes.
I saw it. It looked like a battered wife.
Yeah, I did. I did. Pictures where you get out of the shower and you're just covered in just the red rash, and it burns. I mean, yeah. your skin literally feels like I just took a shower in acid. It really does.
I just want to say too that the biggest thing was when we sent her water off to originally get tested, just like everybody else did, those results came back 0. So had this not grew
0 for what?
0 parts per billion lead.
Okay.
So you'd go on this map thing, it would pop up what your level was at. At that time, it came back 0, which was I was like, oh, okay, nothing to worry about. Had that not grew on her faucet, who knows where we would be. Had I not met Melissa at a mall and connected 6 years prior, not everybody has that resource that we were lucky to have. Mm-hmm. So many people would say, why didn't she just clean it off? Well, if something's rapidly growing on your faucet and you're sick all the time, are you just going to wipe it off, or are you going to wait to see who will come and test this to make sure that it's not from the water? Because at that time, it felt kind of like conspiracy. Like, is this from the water? You know, maybe it's just the soft scrub. Maybe it, you know. So to find out that is truthfully from the bacteria and metal in the water, that's heartbreaking.